Hello everyone and welcome to this video on this course of getting started with Angular. In this part of the video, we'll be continuing with where we left off in the previous video. We learned about the input event listener, and the input event listener is used to send data from a parent component to a child component. And what I mean by this parent-child relation is that if we go to the customers.component.html over here, we can see that the app-customer or this particular component is being referred inside of the HTML file. So to explain it very basically or easily, whenever a component is rendered or is placed inside another component's HTML file, that nested component is the child and the host component where the selector has been placed is the parent. So in this case, app-customer gets to be the child of the customers.component.html, which is the parent. With that out of the way, the input event listener is used to update or send data from the parent to the child, and we did exactly that. So if you go to the customer.component.ts, you can see that the input event listener is listening to changes which are being sent from the customers.component.html, and then those changes are reflected over here, which is customer.name and customer.age. And if we go to the customer.component.html, we can see that we have binded to that customer variable, and then we have told Angular that this customer variable, which is inside of the app-customer component, it needs to be equal to this particular element, which is a part of the ng4 structural directive. So this was a very basic level overview of what we did previously. Now I would like to go over a very important concept, which is how can we update elements, or how can we send data back from the child component to the parent component. So basically, something changes inside of the customer, the single customer. I'll call this particular component the single customer component. Something changes inside of the single customer component, and we need to notify the parent of that change, and we need to update data based on whatever change happened. So what we can do is, the first thing I would like to do is, I will go to my customers.component.ts and I will define a new variable by the name of ID. I'll give it a random value, which is 0, and I'll click on save. Now I'll go to my single customer component over here, and what I will do is I will render the ID like this. Now if I go back to my application, nothing changes, it's still the same. We're just sending an extra piece of data. But what I would like to do is that whenever I click on any one of these elements, like if I click on, like, let's say the first element over here, this number should change. It should increment by 1, showing me the number of clicks basically that have happened on this particular element. So every object over here, it should give me a counter of the number of clicks that have happened on that particular element. Now, the first thing that would come to my mind is that I would like to add a click event listener, and this click event listener should update that counter. So what I can do is I will add a new function which will be listen click, just a random name, and I will take this listen click over here and I'll place it like this, and I have defined my function like this. Now the listen click obviously has been defined, but we still need to send that data back to the customers.component.html. So how we can go about doing that is that we will define a new variable. I will call it let's say customer changed. Let's just call it customer changed, and equate it to new event emitter. So the event emitter, as the name suggests, is something that emits an event, right? And I will give it a type of object. So basically telling it that this particular event emitter needs to emit objects only, and then use round brackets to show that this particular event emitter is complete and signifying its constructor. Now that this particular event emitter has been defined, I need to add a decorator in front of it, which will not be input, but it will be output, like this, telling Angular that this customer changed object is going to emit events. Now inside of my listen click function, what I will do is I will do this dot customer changed dot emit. And what do I want to emit? I want to emit the customer object. I want to emit the customer object. That is it, the current customer object. Now, this particular event emitter will emit or send this customer object out, but we don't have any listener. We are not like listening to this particular, or we haven't like, I won't say subscribed is something different, but we are not like listening to this particular change. So how do we listen to it is, we will go to our multiple customers component over here, and this is where we defined our relation for our input event listener. For the output event listener, before I do anything over here, I need to go over here and define a function, and that function name will be listen to changes, something like this, and it will receive something. It will receive an object or something, but something will be like coming into this function. Now I go back to my customer.component.html, and the name of the event emitter was customer changed. What I need to do is I need to bind to customer changed with the property of the single customer component, and I need to bind it to the function which I just defined, which is listen to changes. Listen to changes. C is capital. But at the same time, I don't want to leave it empty. Oops, sorry. I need to tell Angular that this listen to changes function will receive an event object from the single customer component. Now with that out of the way, what we can do is, first things first, let's see whether this is working. We will just console.log events. I go back to my application. I will expand this a bit. Add customer using the input event listener. 2 elements have been outputted. But if I click on any one of these, as you guys can see, I am listening to my event. It is like the console is showing me that the app-customers, sorry, the multiple customers component, app-customers, yes, is listening to changes which are happening in the single customer component. Now that is all well, and yeah, the event that is coming in is the object which we sent initially, which was the ID, the name, or the age over here. So we sent this object from customer.component.ts to the app hyphen or the single customer component, and now that single customer component is sending that data back to us. I would like to do one little thing, which is that I will tell Angular that this dot customer, this dot event, no, what I would like to do is event.id plus equal to 1. So I'm adding 1 to the ID, incrementing it by 1, and I will tell Angular that the last, not the last array actually, no, yeah, let's just try. I'm just trying to play around with something, but let's see what this gives us. Yeah, let's just give it a try. So I click, I get something. Okay, yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for. I click a few times more, I get something. Yeah, precisely, this is exactly what I was looking for. And what did I do? I told Angular that the event or the object that is being sent from the single customer component to this multiple customer components, take that object and increment the ID by 1 whenever that particular object is clicked, and then assign the last element, of that customer array, like take the last element of the customer array and equate it to the event.id, and obviously that event.id will be equal to the last customer element. And we can even, like, let's see in the console as well. So we can do console.log event I click on this. So as you can see over here, the fifth object is what the fifth object inside of my array is what has been returned. And then what I do is, when I click over here on the second, basically this looks second, but whenever I click on the second object over here, it incremented it by 1 or as many times as it wants. No, actually, I think a better example will be if we just output the customer array. Even though we have gone over the concept of output event listener, I just think it's better if we can possibly make better sense of this customer array. So we output it over here. We get 0, 0, 0 because we have 3 elements. Now, if I were to click on any one of these, I get okay, sorry, I won't get anything because I'm just outputting it. Okay, I guess I got a bit confused over here. No element ever gets added until unless we click on the add customer button. So until the add customer button gets clicked, if I refresh, I will always have this particular element inside of my array. Now, if I, no matter how many times click on this, I will still have only one element inside of my customer array, but the count will keep on increasing. So that is why -1 will always return the latest element inside of my array. So yeah, sorry about that. I just got a bit confused, but yes, the main concept was to teach you guys what input and output event listeners are, how they can be used to exchange data between parent and child components. Obviously, we just looked at one-to-one component parent-child component relation, but input and output event listeners can be used to send data from a tree or a host of components, like from one parent to the other to third, fourth, fifth, all the way to some 10th or 11th component. So yeah, the significance of these particular event listeners in the case of input event listener and the event emitters in the case of output event emitters is significant. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this video was useful and it managed to explain to you guys clearly what input output event listeners are. If you guys enjoy the content, feel free to give me a like, share this content with your friends and family, for that helps me out a lot. And until we meet in the next video, this is Mohit Lodi signing off.